Köszönöm szépen, még csak azt szeretném elmondani, hogy van itt egy standja a Sütői Idősek Otthonának, ahol ez a fotó készült. Ferenci István, aki történetesen a fiam, de fotóművész is, ő készítette. Ez a jelenet, ez egy idős asszonynak az ünneplése, éppen egy ünnepségbe csöppentünk, és itt a háttérben gyermekek láthatók, és hogy ez angolul is egy kis szöveget láthatnak ezen a prospektuson, vagy információs lapon, hogy the place, a hely, hogy miért ez a cím, ezt el szeretném mondani, hogy a Kossuth Rádió tegnap forgatott egy műsort az otthonban, és a rádió műsorának az a címe, hogy a hely. Tehát, hogy azért ennek az örömére és ennek a tiszteletére készült ez a kis bemutatkozó anyag. És akkor el szeretném mondani, hogy hol is fertőződtem én meg igazán így az idősügy kérdésével, meg az idős nőüggyel. Elizabeth Sclatter nevéhez fűződik egy talán mások előtt már ismert történelmi találkozás 2009-ben New Yorkban, az ENSZ-ben, ahol ezekben a napokban zajlik minden évben a CSW, a nőkkel foglalkozó bizottságnak az ülése. Ott különböző rendezvényeket szerveznek. Én már indultam volna a reptérrel, de volt még egy fél órám, egy órám, és láttam, hogy ott az egyik ajtón ki van írva, hogy idős nők bizottsága, és valami ilyesmi, older women. Na hát ezzel nem nagyon akartam még korábban foglalkozni, de azt mondtam, hogy ez egy nagyon jó pofa dolog, és hát ha ez engem, tehát tanulni szeretnék erről, bementem azon az ajtón, és azóta tudom, hogy ezzel a kérdéssel Magyarországon nekem ezt a kérdést föl kell vállalnom, és hát először még úgy nem tetszett, mert mi lesz, hogyha engem csak erről fognak itt ismerni, hogy idősödő nők, de az ember így idősödik, beleszokik. Szóval a fiatalokat mindig elmondom, hogy ez egy jó dolog, ez az idősödés, és rengeteg jó dologgal jár, és majd persze beszélünk arról is, ami már egy lezáró szakasz, és ami már Ildikó asztala, de addig még csodálatos dolgok történhetnek velünk, és velem megtörtént ez a csodálatos dolog, hogy én ebből a találkozásból lett egy közös ügy, megismerkedtem egy szervezettel, amit úgy hívnak, hogy Older Women Europe, és 3 csodálatos embert meg fognak ismerni nagyon hamar, és beválasztottak ennek a szervezetnek az elnökségében, nagyon boldog vagyok, és ők delegáltak engem, ami egy óriási megtiszteltetés Magyarországnak, az Age Platform Europe szervezetbe, ahol tisztelettel köszöntöm Maciej Kucharczyk urat, aki ennek a szervezetnek a vezérigazgatója, és 2010 óta egy szakértőként dolgozhatom ebbe a szervezetbe, és úgy érzem, hogy ennek köszönhető, hogy tulajdonképpen mi Magyarországra rengeteg dologra fel tudjuk hívni a figyelmet, és egy olyan szakmai hátteret tudunk magunknak biztosítani, ami én úgy érzem, hogy egy think tank irányba fog minket elvinni. Hát akkor átadom a szót Maciej Kucharczyk úrnak.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Your Excellency, all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much on behalf of Age Platform Europe and its members from 26 EU member states for this invitation. I would like to congratulate the Association of Women's Career Development for this debate. There is no big surprise to speak about women's issues around the International Women's Day, but at the same time to speak about a specific group among women, which is older women. I think this is certainly an added value of today's event, and working already for 10 years on older people's issue, I can assure you that this is one of the key priorities for age organizations, to bring forward the different aspects which are related to gender in age. As we know, different forms of inequalities, if not of discrimination related to age, they are actually repercussion of what people, men and women, accumulated at earlier stages of their lives. And that's why it's important when we speak about equality between women and men, we take this perspective of looking at equality from life perspective. How can we ensure that people, both women and men, can enjoy same rights at every stage of their life? But first of all, very quickly, this is what I'm going to present you during my speech. Hopefully I will fit into 15 minutes. So very briefly, I will present you first our association, and then in a couple of words, I will give you some information about, because it's interesting to put maybe this today's debate into the European context. This is where I'm coming from. And then, of course, I will make the link to the European year 2012. It was the last European year that looked at this question of how to promote, how to facilitate aging, active aging, but also the solidarity between generations. And as it was also said in the introductory remarks by Madam President, there is another link to the current European year, which is about promoting Europe for citizens. So I think the debate around equality, gender equality, is obviously very much linked to the both topics of the European year 2012 and the current European year 2013. So first of all, Age Platform Europe. We've been working already for more than 11 years. We were founded in 2001. We are an umbrella organization that gathers at the European level all different associations that are interested, that are sensitive about older people's rights. We've got both associations of older people, so this what we call in English self-advocacy organizations. Older people themselves, they decide to organize to speak for themselves, but we've got also associations working for older people. So in other words, service, for example, providers of services, different social services for older people. Today we represent around 167 associations, as I said, from 26 member states. That represents, roughly speaking, 30 million of members belonging to these organizations. We are a non-for-profit umbrella organization, which is financed by, on one hand side, the fees that we receive from our members, and on the other side, by a grant that we receive on a yearly basis from the European Commission. Somebody would maybe ask immediately a question, so what about the independence of age, given the fact that we receive support from the European Commission? But I think that this is the strength of the support that the European institutions, that the European Commission gives to the civil society. And in our more than 10 years experience, we never had a feeling that the European Commission was imposing or trying to influence what we say, what we try to put forward as messages. I think that it is important to mention this support from the European Commission, because we know that in many member states, civil society organizations, they have difficulties, also financial difficulties, to survive, to have a voice in the policy debate. So certainly the fact that at the European level we have this financial support from the European Commission, this is what gives all of us, our associations, older people, a chance to speak and to put forward our messages to policymakers. We work, myself, I'm coming from the secretariat of this association. We are based in Brussels. It's a small team of 10, 11 people. We work, myself, I'm managing director, but the head of the secretariat is the Secretary General. We work on all different aspects related to aging, those that are quoted. So, of course, we cover the issues related to the employment, social protection systems, but also the fight against poverty, social exclusion. We, of course, look at all different aspects related to the discrimination on the grounds of age. So all those different issues, they are the core of our work, and we try to, let's say, to defend the rights of older people, taking all those different dimensions. As I was saying before, give a voice to older people, but also to their organizations. This is one of our major goals. We would like to promote as much as possible what we call a civil dialogue. As you know, the civil society does not have the same recognition in policy debate as, for example, trade unions, which are part of the social dialogue. But at the same time, I think things are changing, things are progressing, and the civil society, different organizations representing different population groups, not only older people, they are getting in, I would say, in strength. And this is something that we would like to promote as much as possible, both at the European but also at the national level. So we do always make very clear to policymakers when we speak to them that we would like also a support from them. At the national level, many of you are coming from maybe remote even regions of Hungary. You know how difficult it is to have an impact on how policies are shaped, how our society is organized. But there are possibilities for civil society to express its messages. We, for example, promote what we call different kind of consultation forms at the local level. For example, senior councils. At the national level, it can be also senior parliaments. So any, I would say, structure with the support from public authorities at the local, regional, national level that would help civil society, namely here older people's organizations, to give their voice, to give their comments, their suggestions for the way our society is organized, run, but also maybe reshaped, because nothing is written in stone. We can always come and ask for improvement. All the women in the EU, there is a huge diversity, of course, across the European Union, but certainly one common aspect is that older women, they are the biggest part of the older population in most, if not all, the European countries. Women have a higher life expectancy. They do live longer, but not necessarily in a better health. But this is why it's a pity that in many of our countries, women's issues, older women's issues, are not recognized or they are not addressed enough by policymakers. There are some specificities because, of course, both women and men can face different difficulties, discrimination, as I said, at different stages of life. But women in particular, because of all different cultural, but also other social reasons, women are in a more difficult position. And the discrimination that women face at earlier stage in life, there is a clear repercussion of it in older age. And that's why also when you look at the statistics of poverty, older women in Europe, almost in every single European member state, the risk of poverty is much higher for older women than for older men. In more than half of the European 27 member states, women, older women, they have the highest risk of poverty among all different population groups put together. So there is certainly an issue in speaking about older women's rights. And of course, as I said, all those discriminations, they lead to inadequate, at the end, income in old age. And this is one of the major aspects that Age Platform Europe is trying also to put forward in our policy making. So how to defend the adequacy of old age income for women. But I will come back to this aspect in a while. Of course, the last point, which is about difficulties in accessing health, long-term care, social protection in general. This is, I would say, a topic coming even more into debate right now because of the crisis. Our governments, they are facing enormous difficulties actually in financing all different social services, and certainly many services like childcare, long-term care. So all those services that used to be provided in many of our member states for free or at special, very, I would say, interesting, with special allowances, actually all those services are either diminishing or they are just withdrawn. And this actually puts an extra impact on women's life. We speak very often about the sandwich generation. So women between 40, 50, 60 years old, very often they have to care at the same time for their children, maybe even for grandchildren, and at the same time they are also responsible for their parents that become dependent, that they need a very costly and labor-intensive care. So once those services are no longer provided by the state, obviously this will have an impact on women and in particular on women's career. This is more or less already what I've mentioned. So the impact of the crisis is extremely heavy on women, and that's why we say that calling for equal pay for work of equal value, which is certainly one of the major, I would say, objective when we speak about equality, gender equality, today is not enough. This is certainly what we are asking for, but again, we try to make it very clear to the policymakers, with the crisis, with all the changes that come because of the financial impact of the crisis, the provision of services, or rather the lack of the provision of services, social services, again, long-term care, but also childcare, all this will make women's life, active women, even more difficult. And again, because of those career breaks, so women that will need to stop working because they will need to look again after their dependent parents, maybe other relatives, or maybe even to give help to the younger generations with the huge unemployment that we now encounter across the EU. Obviously, all those career breaks will have an impact on the adequacy of income. Moreover, there is a tendency now to reform pension systems, and to put more responsibility on the shoulders of individuals. For example, we are moving from what used to be provided, that the major source of income used to be the first pillar pensions, so those that are actually financed by the contributions. Now governments say, no, actually we have to put closer the contributions, what an individual can save during the working life, and then on the basis of what an individual will save, this will provide the major income in old age. But again, because women, active women, first of all, they receive on average 18% less in terms of salary than men. This is the average figure for the European Union as a whole. The differences can be even higher in some member states. Because of the career breaks that I've just described, because of all those reasons, the shift from the pay-as-you-go, so those contributory related pensions, to those that are financed by the individual income, by the individual savings, this will put even a greater pressure on women's, and their income in old age will be again lower than this of men. Access to employment, training, responsibilities for older people, for older women. Again, we have the aging population that has been constantly growing. So actually the number of older women will be even higher. There is a potential for, in terms of keeping women in employment, of giving them a chance to work, to fulfill themselves in work, and at the same time to look, to play part of the family responsibilities. Women giving the example of my home country, in Poland, older women are extremely, very few women actually are beyond the age of 50 are still in employment. They are, is it a choice, a personal choice, or is it just because there are no chances, there are no opportunities for older women to remain in employment? This is a question. I think it's a little bit both. But certainly, older women, they are not given the same opportunities to remain active, to get back to employment. This is also the case for women that decide to have children. Once they would like to get back to employment, they encounter another difficulty, is to get back to the job that they used to have before. So you see, if there is this debate in many of our countries why we do not have many children, why the fertility rate is so low, I think it's very much also linked to the opportunities that we give for women to have a second professional life. And this is certainly a question of money, but governments need to recognize that enhancing fertility, making people, convince people to have more children, there is a price behind it, and it's up to the state to make all those different elements together. The provision of social services, childcare, it's something that should be provided by the state. Otherwise, people will just think that they cannot afford having children. So you see, all those issues are related. We covered all these different aspects last year, the European Year on Active Aging and Intergenerational Solidarity. The gender equality, as I said in the beginning remark, it's mainstream in the work that age organizations are doing. And what the major idea that we came with after the year, how to promote further gender equality, but also how to promote older people's rights beyond the European Year 2012, we came with this idea of promoting what we call age-friendly environments. So how to adapt all different environments. We do not speak only about infrastructure, so built environment, transport, etc. We also cover, when we refer to age-friendly environments, social protection systems, labor market, so how to adapt all those different aspects of daily life to the needs of an aging society. There will be more and more older people, so in any case, if we want give the same opportunities for older people to participate in society, we should create what we call age-friendly environments. And how it will happen, these are all different policy areas in which we will promote active aging. It is an opportunity, we think, rather than a burden. The fact that our societies are aging, there is a huge potential behind it. Older people, they are part of a society. There are different age groups, different population groups. They all should have the same rights in order to be equal citizens. So we will look across all those different aspects: labor market, participation in the society. There is, of course, the stigmatization of older people, so we would like also to promote a positive image of older people, social protection, access to health, all the issues that I have already covered. So that's it. Sorry for being maybe a bit long. I remember I was in Budapest 2 years ago, invited by the government, the Hungarian government, to speak during the Hungarian presidency about the rights, the social protection rights of women. It was very interesting. And 2 years ago, actually, we were celebrating 100 years of International Women's Day. Now we are 2 years later. I think that this symbolic number of 100, it's a positive 100, and I hope that we will not have to wait another 100 years in order to ensure equality for men and women. Thank you very much for your attention.